Back in the 80s when you were a mechanic, what was the biggest paycheck you ever received?
I've made upwards of...
Hey everyone, I'm here with Darren Brothers. He is a heavy equipment mechanic, and today we're going to talk about his career. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a heavy equipment mechanic, and he's just going to give his backstory on his life. The first question I have for you, Darren, is what made you become a heavy equipment mechanic?
Well, when I started out, I actually was working in a service station doing tires and light mechanical work. With that, I moved on from there and went to work on a ranch for a while, a few years. And even on the ranch, we worked on the equipment to keep it up and maintain it and change tires and batteries and water pumps and whatever. So moving on from there, we ended up having a family, so I moved off the ranch into a house and actually went to work for a company running a Big John 90 tree spade, doing environmental buffers. Again, when you're working on or working with any equipment or trucks or whatever, you tend to have to work on them. So, we would do the brakes and that kind of stuff. And it went on for a year or two, and that company ended up getting dissolved, so I was out of a job. So I went to work for a municipality. I got hired on as a mosquito inspector, walking ditches, dipping mosquito larvae and that kind of stuff, putting out Alticid and stuff for mosquitoes. With the municipality I worked for, they also had a maintenance barn, and there was a lot of stuff getting backed up in the maintenance barn, so I would slowly work over there taking care of brakes and stuff on the equipment or cars and trucks. And with that, they decided that I would actually make a good fit in the mechanic shop, so I got hired on as a so-called mechanic 2, working on cars and farm tractors and that kind of stuff. But we had a lot of old military equipment. We had 5-ton military Kaiser wreckers, 20-ton forklifts and that kind of stuff. I kind of really liked working on the heavier equipment better than the cars and trucks, just because I was bigger and getting up under dashes was miserable. So I just started working on the heavy equipment when I had my off time from mosquito control, and there became an opening, so they, like I said, they hired me in there as a mechanic 2. Well, they had the landfill had a heavy equipment shop, and they lost a couple people out there. So since I was working with heavy equipment in town, they thought I might want to work out there. So I got transferred to the landfill, which at first I thought was terrible, because you're going from a shop, working out in the field, in the landfill. A lot of people call it a dump, but it's a landfill. And they had bulldozers and drag lines and dredges and excavators and elevated scrapers and that kind of stuff, which once I got out there, I found that I really enjoyed working on the bigger stuff. We had a pretty good shop out there with the equipment. So I spent 15 years out there working on heavy equipment, rebuilding drag lines, center pins, independent hoists, respooling cables, just whatever it took. I mean, we would take a machine in the shop and strip it completely down, repaint it, rebuild planetary gears or whatever it needed. Hydraulic hoses, just replace all those hydraulic hoses on site or whatever. We made those on site, so it was pretty convenient. And made a pretty good career out of it over those years.
My other question I have for you is, did you go to school to learn about mechanics, or did you learn it by family and friends?
Well, a lot of it was on-the-job training. I mean, I was fortunate over my lifetime to have people in my life that taught me different aspects of mechanics. And even with working with the municipality, some of the older guys that worked there, because we got along, they were really helpful in teaching me what they knew. It wasn't like a secret to them and they were scared of me taking their job. We all worked together, and it really worked out well. I did, after years working out on the heavy equipment on the landfill site, myself and one of my employees, we did go to IRCC and take multiple classes up there, and it kind of filled in some blanks, different aspects. I mean, when you're working on your own or having somebody teaching you, it's one thing and you understand how things work, but when you actually back it up with some, actual schooling, it fills in the blanks. I mean, with whether it be air conditioning or heating and ventilation or engine overhaul or transmission rebuilding or brakes or whatever, there's pieces that you'd be real surprised to learn about that you really didn't know. You know, the changes of state and the gases in your air conditioning. You know, it's one thing to charge a system, but to actually know what's going on really helps you with troubleshooting systems.
I think you already answered this, but my other question I have for you is how long did you do mechanic work for?
As a full-time job, I spent 15 years with the municipality doing heavy equipment. I worked a couple years in the garage doing light equipment. From when I left the heavy equipment at the municipality, I actually moved into a management position over the utilities department, because we still had over there, they had multiple generators. I mean, we had, I don't know, 40 something mobile generators, and we had plant generators up to 1,500 horsepower to keep the plants going. So I transferred over there because they went to a transfer station out at their landfill. And with that, they're downsizing all the equipment, and I just didn't feel like there'd be enough stuff to really keep me busy. With that, I was offered to go to work for Caterpillar, which would have been down in West Palm Beach, and I would have been out of the municipality or county system or Florida State retirement, which I really had to weigh out because, you know, I had 15 years invested in it. With that, you can retire full at 30. So when I had the job offer to go to the utility department and run their maintenance division over the generators and the plants and all that, I took that on as a challenge, and that worked out really well for 19, 20 years.
What is the most money a mechanic can make?
You know, that's really hard to say because it depends on what you're doing. You know, if you're doing piecework or, you know, straight time and material, and it depends if you're working on a car, truck, heavy equipment. I mean, a good mechanic, the sky's the limit. I mean, you can almost write your own check, it seems like, because there's coming fewer. I mean, a lot of the guys these days, they want to sit there and push buttons on a computer, which a lot of it is that with the new systems in the equipment and even in the cars. I mean, most of it's diagnosed by a computer, so you need to be computer literate to work on them anyway. I mean, when I got out of the heavy equipment, they were just starting in with the computerized suspension systems and the articulated dump trucks and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, for old school mechanics, it's like, you know, what in the world's going on? The transmissions itself, where you could use a Tetra gauge, which is a series of pressure gauges, and plug it into the transmission to see where your valves and stuff are open. It's all done by computer now, and it's all done by time, and so it's crazy.
What is the lowest money that a mechanic can make for a rookie? So your first starting year.
Well, I mean, if you're being just trained on a job, you know absolutely nothing, and you know somebody's giving you a chance to, they mentor you to through it, I would still believe that you should be at least a minimum of, you know, $15, $16, $17 an hour to start, because there's still, I mean, a lot of it, if you're mechanically inclined at all, you pick it up quick. And a lot of people get scared because they look at things as a whole, you know, the whole damn vehicle or whatever, and you're like, you break it down into what you're looking at. You know, it's even with the heavy equipment. You know, you might have a 200,000 pound machine, which is massive. It's 12 feet high and 50 feet long. But when you're working on it, normally you're looking for a specific thing. So you take that component, so you eliminate everything else that's there.
Another question I have for you: what is the most expensive equipment you ever worked on throughout your whole career?
Well, probably the drag lines. You know, a drag line could be a couple $1 million. You know, it's easy. I mean, you look at even we'll say an old 826 compactor, which is, you know, an 83,000 pound machine. It probably, today's cost is probably $700,000 because, you know, the wheels alone are, you know, you're looking at 60, 70 grand on just the wheels. So equipment goes up quick. I mean, it's amazing what they can run. You know, you look at the big trucks they use out in the mine fields, you know, hauling rock, they can run $16 million. You know, it's just, it all depends on what you're working on. But I've worked on a lot of different stuff. I worked on, like I said before, drag lines, dredges, excavators, big loaders, elevated scrapers. I mean, it's all lots of money.
Wow.
Lots of upkeep.
And that actually leads me into my next question. What is someone that ever motivated you in life to continue your career?
I had my wife's father. I mean, when we were growing up, he always helped me with learning some mechanics. He was a mechanic. He owned gas stations. That was his profession. And when I got with my wife, you know, I was young. We were 15 when we got, or I was 15 when we got together. And so when I got my first truck, you know, like everybody's first vehicle, it's not the best. So there's things that broke on it. Well, you know, as a young kid, I couldn't afford to fix it or, you know, have somebody fix it. So you fix things yourself. So George, you know, he would tell me what to get, whatever, and come by and say, yep, okay, pull the transmission out. So he'd come back and I'd have the transmission out. We'd pull the bell out, put a clutch in it, and he'd tell me how to, you know, do the pilot bearing, the old, you know, that kind of stuff. And yeah, that kind of got me motivated. I mean, my real father, and I don't know if things are genetic or not, that's up for speculation, but, you know, that was his profession. When he got out of service, he was a mechanic.
What is the most unique vehicle you ever worked on? So, for example, one vehicle you looked at and you say, how am I going to fix this?
There's two, and they both are kind of the same monster. One is called a Minzy-Muck, and the other one's called a Spider. And it's a machine for cleaning ditches and mowing, but it's all hydraulics. They have independent arms, you know, for each leg, because they're made to where they can actually crawl down into a ditch, set down on the ground, dig, whatever, come up out of it. And, you know, if you have a good operator that can actually climb over a fence without taking it down, and yeah, they can be a nightmare, because the smallest piece of something in the hydraulic system can, you know, stick in a valve bank and things don't work. And I explained to my wife before, it's funny you asked, because we were riding, when we do a lot of riding, just talking, and we're past one out in Okeechobee or whatever, happened to be one on the side of the road. I was telling her a story about, I had one broke down in a ditch, and it was full of water, so I had to wade in, and I'm standing there working on a valve bank, and I literally had otters swimming around, racing heck. But, you know, I pulled the valve back out, cleaned it out, never seen anything, put everything back together, and it works fine. And that would drive me nuts, because you dislodge something that went somewhere, but you never seen it, but everything's working. So you say, did you fix it? I said, well, it's working now. Yeah.
Another question I have for you. What is the most reliable vehicle anyone can drive? And if you can't give me one, you can give me three.
I would say it. You know, that's open for speculation. I'm definitely I've been a Ford person my whole life. I mean, it's just not that I'm saying they're better than Chevy or better than Dodge. I just really like Ford products. I mean, so for me, I would stick with my F-150s. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I mean, yes, everybody has a little quirk about something, but to me, it would be the Ford F-150.
What is the most unreliable vehicle anyone can drive?
Ooh, unreliable. Well, that would be kind of hard to say. Like, you know, today things are built with such precision machining and stuff that a lot of vehicles are really reliable. I mean, like we were talking before, they don't give you a 100,000-mile warranty because they're going to break, you know. So I'd have a hard time just picking one. You know, it's just a lot of it is how they're maintained. I mean, you can take a vehicle that's not as expensive as the next one, but if you maintain it well, it's reliable. So, for me to say, one is better than the other, I'd hate to put a flag on something like that.
All right, I understand. Another question I have for you. Is it best to get your car from a dealership or from a side dealer?
Well, there's definitely pros about buying from a dealership, especially if you're buying a certified used type vehicle because they come with some kind of warranty. I've always looked at vehicles, which I've bought a lot of used ones. I look at it as you're always buying somebody else's problem. I mean, most people don't get rid of a car because they're great and they're wonderful, So it's kind of hard. If you buy off an individual, they've got records of showing their, maintain their oil and all, back records. That's good. A lot of these car lots, the secondary car lot dealers, they buy them off of the dealers. They wholesale them out because they don't want these on their lot, so they fix them up a little bit and pass them on. And a lot of times you don't have any type of warranty. You sign on a dotted line that you're buying it as is, it's as is. So, like I said, if you can afford to buy from a reputable dealer with some kind of warranty, it's always good. Not everybody can, so you try to vet out your purchase as well as you can and expect to have some sort of issues, and just try to deal with it from there.
The next question I have for you is, what are some questions someone should ask before buying a new vehicle?
Well, depending on, like you say, if it's from an individual or a car lot or a secondary car lot, you kind of want to know how many owners it had, if it had any major damage that's been repaired. You want to look it over real well, look under it, make sure there's no leaks under the hood. It's main thing is look, see how well it's been taken care of, which is kind of hard on dealers because they will pressure wash the heck out of the cars. They'll make them look like they've been in a garage forever, but that's not so true. And these days, with the amount of weather storms we've had up north and everything, number one, I would ask them, is it been a flood vehicle? Because if it's a flood vehicle, to me, run. Don't. You will have electrical problems forever. Then do some research online. I mean, look up and make sure whatever they're asking is in line. A lot of places put numbers on cars to see what they can get. And somebody that doesn't really know, they end up paying more than they should. So,
which country do you think produced the best vehicles?
I'd love to say United States, but Toyota's been around for a long time, and they build a very good vehicle. Their new trucks, maybe not the most fuel efficient, but they're still a good vehicle. Yeah, what is it, Japan?
Japan, yep.
Yeah, they turn out some good vehicles.
What are your dream cars to own? If you can't give me one, you can give me three.
My dream vehicles, because I'm kind of a Ford guy, and I've had them. I really like the Ford F-250 four-wheel drive diesel. I've owned the 7.3 diesel. I've owned the 5.6. I've owned the Ford F-550 four-wheel drive dually. Not that you need one, but I wanted one and I had it. So
that's your only dream car that you ever wanted?
Yeah, I was never really into the cars. I mean, when we were growing up younger and racing down at Old Moroso Motorsports and stuff, we actually raced Chevy Nova 72, nice fast car. But I always liked the Ford T-Buckets, not for racing, just because they're a nice looking car, shows off your engine.
If you could restart your mechanic career over, what would you have done differently?
I probably would have went into marine diesel, because the heavy equipment that I was in, they kind of refer them as dirt mechanics, because most of the stuff you're working on is in dirt. marine diesels. If you've ever been down in the galley of a marine engine, big ship, they're pretty much spotless. So it's nice and clean. You know, it's although it can be trying because a lot of them have a lot of accessibility to get parts. So you end up learning how to do a lot of fiberglass or have somebody else do it because you have to cut things loose to get them out. But yeah, I'd probably go into the cleaner business, a little less work on your body because, you know, heavy equipment, it ruins you. I mean, I've had multiple surgeries on my arms and stuff because of working with heavy equipment. You get a bad back, bad knees, you know, it's tough. With that, I mean, if somebody's coming up today, they have a lot better equipment to use and your PPE, your protective equipment. If they use all that, which is the smartest thing to do, it's still a very lucrative profession to get into.
How would you say your mechanical career affected your family? In a positive way or a negative way?
Oh, definitely a positive way. I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, I dropped out of school when I was 15 years old, or 16, just before I was 16, and just went to work. I mean, that was to make money. So when I got into the county and got into the mechanics, it really set a career in motion. And it motivated me. I went back to school, got my high school diploma, because, you know, working for a municipality or whatever, you have to, back then they would hire you without one, but you could never become a supervisor without a diploma. So I went back to school and got a diploma, and it really kind of pushed me forward. I mean, I like I told you before, I ended up going back to IRCC, taking classes with up there, which was a big help. I've had training through Kelly Tractor in West Palm Beach. They used to have a training program with an instructor, Mr. Bob Sandmeyer. I swear he could teach a rock how to repair stuff. He was just one of those guys that was great. And it really, you know, it pushed me to keep doing what I was doing until it got to a point, like I said, we had a lot of equipment that kept me busy a lot, because I like to say busy. And then when they transferred into going to a transfer station and scaling down on all the heavy equipment and, you know, went to a couple loaders and stuff, it kind of got away from me a little bit. And then with the opportunity of moving into a management position over a maintenance division, which was the thing at the time to do, because like I told you, I had a lot of medical issues from it, so I was able to scale back and just tell other people how to work.
So would you tell the younger generation it's a great field to go into?
Absolutely. I mean, if if they have the drive to work heavy diesel equipment and stuff, it's a real good profession to get into. I mean, there's a lot of people, like I said before, not getting into it because unfortunately a lot of people don't want to work hard. You know, they want to use their mind, they want to use the computers and stuff, but the mechanic field is a manual labor along with, you know, a good mindset, and there's a lot of studying and stuff involved. So you use your mind, but you use your body a lot too.
Back in the 80s when you were a mechanic, what was the biggest paycheck you ever received?
I've made upwards of $6,000 a month.
Another question I have for you, do you see the entire car culture dying off, or do you see it becoming more popular in the future?
I see it kind of, you know, it's strange, because when I was younger coming up, you actually had to drive from dealer to dealer to find them with trucks. Now everybody sells trucks, because now they went from a tool to work with to a transportation vehicle for mom and the kids going to soccer, you know. So, but with that, the prices of fuel and all that kind of stuff, I kind of see the trend going back to some sort of a car, easier on fuel, you know, reliable, a little less costly to maintain.
Another question I have for you, what advice would you give people, any type of advice, just in life? Because you said you're retired, you did all this work many years, you have a family, have a wife. What is just some advice you would give to anybody, any age?
You know, strive for success. You know, work. Don't let other people put you down to where you don't want to move forward. And if you're going after something, work towards it. You know, if it gets hard, just keep working towards it. It'll come along. I mean, coming up, like you said, me and my wife started when I was 15, she was 16, and I moved out of the house when I was 17 years old, out onto a ranch, and we had nothing, but we would do whatever it took to make the ends meet. You know, I didn't go steal it from somebody. I mean, we worked. It didn't matter what it was, whether cutting trees or hauling cars to the junkyard. It didn't, whatever it took to make the money, that's what we did. And it paid off. I mean, you know, just a good, honest mindset and hard work.
I hope this interview really helped a lot of younger people. You know, I hope more people will go into this career. It was very nice that you were able to share all this information.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate this interview. Is there anything else that you want to say to anybody watching out there?
I don't know. It's kind of tough. I mean, today I think everybody needs to just start talking to each other more. You know.
I agree.
Just put down your defenses and talk to somebody. And there's a lot of good people out there. It's just that a few bad people make it rough for a lot of people. You know. So, hey, get to know your neighbor.